The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Glory to you. Jesus again in reply spoke to the chief priests and elders of the people in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be likened to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son. He dispatched his servants to summon the invited guests to the feast, but they refused to come. A second time he sent other servants, saying, 'Tell those invited, behold, I have prepared my banquet. My calves and fatted cattle are killed, and everything is ready. Come to the feast.' Some ignored the invitation and went away, one to his farm, another to his business. The rest laid hold of his servants, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged and sent his troops, destroyed those murderers, and burned their city. Then he said to his servants, 'The feast is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy to come. Go out, therefore, into the main roads and invite to the feast whomever you find.' The servants went out into the streets and gathered all they found, bad and good alike, and the hall was filled with guests. But when the king came to meet the guests, he saw a man there not dressed in a wedding garment. The king said to him, 'My friend, how is it that you came in here without a wedding garment?' But he was reduced to silence. Then the king said to his attendants, 'Bind his hands and feet and cast him into the darkness outside, where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth.' Many are invited, but few are chosen." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
As I mentioned earlier, today we not only celebrate another Sunday in Ordinary Time, but we also celebrate this annual White Mass for doctors, nurses, medical technicians, administrators, and indeed all healthcare professionals who serve our community. 3 days from now, October 18th, is the feast of St. Luke, the evangelist, who is also the patron saint of physicians. For as the New Testament attests, St. Luke was himself a physician. St. Paul referred to him as the beloved physician. So we also ask St. Luke to intercede for all medical professionals, especially those who have joined us this morning and all those who serve throughout the Diocese of Grand Rapids. May they be guided by Christ, the divine physician, and sustained by the grace of God as they seek to heal body, mind, and spirit. Jesus has entrusted his church with the gospel of life, the good news of the kingdom, which tells of his salvation, his compassion, and his healing love. Jesus wants to be present, to be close to anyone and everyone who is afflicted and sick. Today, Jesus draws near to these people in need through you and me. That is why the work of those in the healthcare profession is so important. Because in your work, quite simply, you represent Christ. You are signs of his compassion, ambassadors of his love. In what you do to bring care and comfort and healing, you are indeed a sign of the kingdom that Jesus came to bring. In our gospel story today about the wedding banquet, the wedding feast that Jesus talks about is a symbol of God's kingdom. And the wedding garment, the important wedding garment, is a symbol of what each of us needs to enter the kingdom. What do we need? We need a garment of charity and compassion. And we need a garment of charity and compassion in word and in deed. Our Holy Father, Pope Francis, continues to observe that today's culture is becoming a throwaway culture. He tells us that the sick, the disabled, and the elderly are now part of this throwaway culture. Our task is to proclaim the kingdom of heaven, which is a culture of compassion and mercy, a culture of care and concern. This kingdom is sustained and made present by our own personal works of compassion and mercy and love. That is our wedding garment, and indeed, that is our mission. And this is the beautiful mission of healthcare as well. It is also the duty of every Christian. Jesus told us that he is present in the person of those who are sick or suffering. He also told us that whatever we do for the sick and the suffering, we do to him. So today I thank those of you who are in the healthcare professions for what you do, and just as importantly, for the way you do it. May you always remember that Jesus is present in the flesh of the poor who cannot pay, in those who are suffering, in those who are old and ill, in those who have disabilities. May God's grace help all of us to make a beautiful wedding garment of our lives, a garment of love and compassion for all of God's beloved children.